Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, True Crime Stories. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe so you can hear more. Thanks for stopping by. Before I get into today's story, I wanted to just talk about this man. A golden alert was issued for a missing Pike County, Kentucky man. Phillip Stiltner, age 81, was last seen on Wednesday, March 26th. A golden alert was issued. A golden alert, of course, is for anyone who is elderly or disabled or who has special needs. It's not for a child, but an adult. Troopers say Phillip Stiltner, 81, of Kemper, Kentucky, in Pike County, was last contacted by a family member on Wednesday, March the 26th. Stiltner is described as 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighs 170 pounds. He has brown eyes. According to Pike County management, Stiltner walks with a limp and he had left his cane at home. The agency said that he has a history of dementia and he was last seen at around 1:30 p.m. Thursday. Now, I'm not sure about the details of who was the last person to see him, if it was someone who saw him out and about someplace, or if someone went by his home and saw him around his home. According to Pike County management, he was last known to be wearing blue jeans and a button-up shirt. His vehicle was still left at his home. When his family members went to his home, they said it didn't look like there'd been any kind of struggle or disturbance of any kind. It was just as though this man had walked out his front door. Now, I do know in the last 10 days since this man went missing that there have been people have gone out to search. There have been volunteers. People have gone out on four-wheelers and side-by-sides. They've taken dogs. They've taken drones. Now, eastern Kentucky has had some flooding in that area since this took place. The weekend, the man was last seen on a Wednesday. Thursday, it was reported that he was last seen on a Thursday. He last had contact with his family on the 26th, and he was last seen on the 27th. And like I said, I'm not clear about the details of who was the last person to see him or if someone spoke to him. But there was some flooding and heavy rainfall coming over that following weekend. Now, today being Sunday, the 6th of April, the man's been missing for about 10 days, and it is expected to drop into the 20s overnight in the next few nights, according to the weather service. So I'm sure his family is really hoping to find out something. But like I said, at this time, people have been out searching for him. They've had no contact from anyone who has claimed to have seen him, and he had to have been on foot unless someone picked him up and gave him a ride. So this is all the information that I have right now. I tried to find, I know yesterday there were some posts on Facebook that they were asking for volunteers to come out. They were going to do a search on Saturday, and I found no updates to that. It says here on April the 4th, someone posted, "The ball has been dropped on the search for Phillip Stiltner. We need everybody with any kind of transportation to come out and help." Now, this was Friday, and they were asking for people to come out and help on Saturday. There is a cash reward. Now, he was last seen on the Long Fork of Kemper in Pike County, Kentucky. And if anyone has any information about Phillip Stiltner's whereabouts, you can contact the Kentucky State Police Post 9 in Pikeville, Kentucky at 1-606-433-7711. I found this story on a Facebook page called True Crime Missing, Murdered, and Unsolved. A skull found on the Duck River belonged to a man who had been missing since 2010. Bobby Smelcer was last seen November the 21st, 2010. He went to work and then to the store before returning to his home on East Lane in Shelbyville. So now this was in Tennessee, Shelbyville, Tennessee. Bobby Smelcer was last seen November the 21st, 2010. He went to work, then he went to the store and returned home to his home on East Lane in Shelbyville, Tennessee. The last person known to have seen him was a man named George Boo Boo Mason. He says he dropped Bobby off at home at around 4:30 that day. The next morning, Bobby failed to show up at his place of employment where he worked as a mechanic. Some of his co-workers went out to his house to check on him, but nobody came to the door. On November the 23rd, they went back once again when he didn't show up for work yet again. They looked around the house and found that the back door had been left open. Inside the house, they found Bobby's wallet, keys, and phone. A few droplets of blood that belonged to him were found in the front living room by the front door. Bobby's disappearance scared his loved ones, but despite the searches and attempts, they could not find any signs of him. That was until April of 2012, when a man fishing the Duck River found a skull. And through DNA and through testing of the skull, they would later discover that this belonged to Bobby Smelcer. A search of the woods and water was conducted, but they did not find anything else. And they still don't have any answers to what happened to him. His case remains open, and there is a $5,000 reward offered. Bobby was a father of two. One of his daughters has since died and did not ever get to see that her father's skull was found. His family loved him and they want answers and closure. For more than a decade, a Tennessee family has been searching for answers on what happened to Bobby Smelcer. According to his family, he went to work on November the 21st, and then he went to the store, and finally he returned to his home on East Lane Street in Shelbyville. A friend drove him home and dropped him off, and this was the last time he was known to have been seen alive. And then it goes on to tell the same about how his family or his co-workers, he didn't show up for work 2 days in a row. They went to the home. They found these droplets of blood. The back door was open. His keys, wallet, and everything was there. And I was trying to see if I could find anything where maybe some of his family members had talked about. It says here that he was one of 8 children in his family and that he worked as a mechanic. Smelcer's family agonized over the loss and the lack of information. It's always in the back of your mind, even to this day. Even though his skull was found, we still just do not know what happened that day. And where was the rest of him? In the water, maybe? The family has a $5,000 reward for information, and it has the phone number to contact the Shelbyville Police Department at 931-684-5811. This John Doe was called the Marsh Run John Doe. He's unidentified. Marsh Run John Doe was located on Sunday, May the 4th, 2014, in Hagerstown, Maryland. An unidentified person was hunting mushrooms around Loose Lane when they came upon the partially skeletonized body of a white male lodged in debris in a creek called Marsh Run. By the time of the discovery, there was only bones and a little soft tissue remaining. Notably, examination by the medical examiner discovered a surgical suture, a metal suture inserted in his skull around his left eye socket. He was estimated to be between 30 and 60 years of age. He was 6 foot tall around the time of his death. They put his death being somewhere in the years of 2013 and 14. The remnants of the clothing that he was wearing appeared to be a green or blue striped shirt, a pair of red shorts, size large with NBA elevation, a pair of blue shorts, size extra large, and a pair of blue plaid boxers, Fruit of the Loom. I guess there's not a whole lot that they can tell about a John Doe until they take DNA. And now this next one was also found in Maryland, Washington County John Doe. December 13th, 1981, the body of a white male was found over a steep embankment at Mapletown Road in Hagerstown, Maryland. He was thought to be between the ages of 18 and 30, and he had wavy brown hair around 2.5 inches long. His upper front and lower front teeth were missing post-mortem. He was wearing a white long-sleeved shirt, a tan shirt with raised dark brown horizontal stripes that said Gap, tan or gray corduroy pants, and white jockey-style briefs that came from Sears. Washington County John Doe was believed to have been deceased for a few months prior to the discovery. No cause of death was listed. And as I've said before, I know everyone knows I repeat myself, but I tell the stories of the ones that don't have a lot of information because somebody has to tell. I mean, we can all sit for hours on end watching videos and stories and podcasts and documentaries about well-known murders or unsolved cases, but some of these just get a mention. And one of these is Benjamin Brewer. There isn't much available of news media concerning the disappearance. Now, the writer of this from Unsolved Appalachia says, I was able to reach out to some of his family and friends, and they took the time to sit down and tell me about him. I want to start with the details leading up to his disappearance. He had been staying with a friend of his named Warner, who lived in Wooten, Kentucky. Warner's grandmother had passed away, so he took his children to Ashland to attend her funeral. They spent some time with his family. He left a set of house keys with Ben before he left, but when he returned, Ben and the keys were gone. Now, he was supposedly seen at another house sometime that weekend, but the exact date and location they were not sure about that. An acquaintance told police that Ben had been acting paranoid and scared because he thought someone was out to get him. As far as I was able to determine, whoever Ben was afraid of was never mentioned. Another detail is that either the August the 4th or the 5th, this was in 2017, a friend of Ben's took him to see a doctor because of he had an infection in his arm. The doctor was so concerned that he wanted to admit Ben to the hospital, but he refused. So the doctor gave him 2 bottles of antibiotics. Both of these bottles were found at Warner's house, and only 1 dose had been taken. It's obvious that something happened to him before he could take a second dose of his medication. If he wasn't concerned about his arm, why would he have bothered to go to the doctor? He didn't own his own car, so he had to arrange for someone to take him. So whatever happened to him, more than likely he left that house planning to come back because his medication was there, or he left that house against his own will. He wasn't able to come back. The last date that anyone can remember seeing him was August 6, 2017. At this point, the exact details are sketchy. It's been said that he left a party at an unknown location with someone named Doug. Was Doug the last person to see him alive? Now, this writer of this article says that Ben was struggling with addiction, and it's possible that the infection that he had in his arm was from a needle stick where he might have gotten an infection. He went to a party while he was sick with an infection in his arm and unable to get back to take his antibiotics. It says that he was also dealing with depression, and people in his family say that he chose to self-medicate. He was an emotional person. He had a wonderful sense of humor and loved to laugh, but he was very gullible, which led to people playing pranks on him. He could be bashful. He was an outdoors type person, and he loved to go out into the mountains and into the woods to walk. He was very mechanically inclined. He loved to repair motors and work on things like that. He liked to work on engines and stuff. He had a disagreement with his parents, and sometimes he would leave and go stay with family or friends. His grandmother was his favorite person. She was always there for him, and then she never let him go without food or a place to sleep. She was critical of his choices, and she never failed to tell him how she felt about his choices. But she also never turned her back on him. She loved her grandson, but sadly she passed away in 2016. Ben was devastated. So just like that, he was without the one person that he could always turn to. Ben was devastated by the loss of his grandmother, as she had been the one person who was always there for him to make sure that he ate and had some place to sleep. So he kind of spiraled out of control after that. And then less than a year after his grandmother died, he just vanished. No one claims to know anything. According to this article, the person that wrote this says, "We all know that's a complete crock. More than likely, someone saw what happened to Ben that night, and no one is willing to come forward." Ben was from Wooten in Leslie County, Kentucky, and this is not a huge metropolitan area. It's a small community. A lot of people know each other there, and the writer of this article just says, "Do you really think that people are not talking? Someone said something, someone knows something." And people can give anonymous tips to law enforcement and to help this family find an answer as to what happened to Ben. If Ben overdosed, why would someone just not call 911 and say that? If anyone has any information, they're encouraged to call the Kentucky State Police Post 13 at 606-435-6069. You may also leave a tip at the Where's Ben Brewer Facebook page. And that was really all I could find on Ben. He was 25 years old at the time that he disappeared. He was 5'11" to 6'1" and weighed around 130 pounds. He was thought to be wearing a pair of tattered blue jeans, a t-shirt, and some worn sneakers. He was being treated for a serious infection at the time, and he had left behind his medication. He was a white male with brown hair and blue eyes. And he does wear contact lens. And this was really all that there was about him. As for the case of Bobby Smelcer, if anyone has any information, they're encouraged to contact the Shelbyville, Tennessee Police Department at 931-684-5811, or you may call anonymously Crime Stoppers at 931-685-4300. Thanks for watching.